Well then, it's time.
Divorce is emotional. We all understand that. That's why we've got our expert, Jamie, back. But also, it's tax season. And what the hell does that mean when I'm getting a divorce? Whether that's you finalized it in 2025, you're going through it in 2026, what's that mean? All of those questions come up to play, right? Like, who gets the child and the dependent? Have you decided who does that? If you had a business together, what happens there? What are all these moving pieces when it comes to taxes, divorce, and the divorce planning situation? Now, obviously, we're not CPAs. We're not your accountant. We're not the tax advisors, but we do know the strategy. We can talk about those things. So if you have specific questions, reach out to them. But today, it's all about asking Jamie this one overall question, if you will. When it comes to divorce, what do you see people miss the most when it comes to their taxes?
Well, they miss it entirely, right? They are so wound up and so wrapped up in the emotional pieces of the divorce, and there's the element of like, I just want to like, get back at that person, and like I want to fight for this thing and fight for that thing, and they're fighting about things and property and this thing, like it's just, it can be a bit of a disaster, as I'm sure you're well aware. And there's this looming aspect or concept, taxes, that everybody ignores. And that's where we as financial professionals come in on the divorce side of things and have to rein everybody back in and remind them of like, hey, like, if you make this decision, you better be prepared for this tax bill, or not having the flexibility to be able to do the thing that you want to do later because the tax implications of the decisions that you're making. So I think the number one biggest mistake is people ignore it. But there's so many other underlying components of that people need to pay attention to.
And we'll get to some of those for sure. Mm-hmm. But I think part of the reason it's forgotten or just never brought up is also I'm not going to talk shit about you all of you accountants and CPAs, I promise. But like a lot of them haven't been through a divorce situation with their clients per se, or the attorneys don't exactly know how the tax piece is portrayed. And I think that's the misnomer of things from people. They think all professionals know all of the different strategies and tools and moving parts, which, yeah, in general, I can say most of us do, right? We know that if you want to split your assets, there's a process to doing so, right? Whether it's the business or, your IRAs or your home, whatever, pretty much we all know how to get that done. But what we rarely do, what I rarely see is like, well, how does that affect me going forward? And how does that affect me from a tax perspective, right? Because it's not as simple as, hey, Jamie and I are going to get a divorce and there's $1 million and we just split it. Well, cool. But it came from 4 different areas that all have their different tax situation, let alone now it changes your entire estate plan. So I find it interesting that people do forget that piece when it's like the one thing in our lives that we all stress about every year, right? Like there is tax season every single year and everyone always stresses about it, but we forget about it in the divorce perspective. So while we dive into more of the little specifics when it comes to that, I have a client situation who they got divorced in 2025, had a business together and officially finalized in December. Not only do they have a business, but they have 3 real estate pieces and Ks and life insurance, really the full. And now I know I'm role playing this a little bit because obviously it's from my own clientele, but when we did this, we talked about, okay, do you want to do a QDRO with a 401k? They actually decided not to. They split assets where he got to keep his 401k, but she got the value in the life insurance and the value in one property to kind of equalize, right? They also decided that for the 2025 season, they're just going to decide to file jointly and keep it as if they are married for that year from a business perspective. Now, 2026 happens, and we get this question of, well, there was a bonus, there was a distribution, there was an event that happened in 2025 prior to the divorce that just got funded now. In a situation like that, and I know you're not an accountant, but how can that be rectified beforehand when it comes to the divorce decree or the planning for something that potentially might be unforeseen?
You're talking about the last piece?
Yeah, specifically the last piece. Yeah.
Can I have some more details about that last piece? There's
Yeah.
a distribution that hasn't. It's from the business. The distribution hasn't happened yet.
Well, technically, let's see, March. No, it hasn't. It'll be coming now. So um, they had an investment out there
Uh huh.
from years and years ago
Sure.
that there was no paper trace on, right? No one calculated it into their financial plan and the divorce plan,
Okay.
and now we get a distribution, and it hit. Now they're like, well, whose is it? What do we do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, how do you deal with when
Hmm.
something occurred that you had no plan for? How is that dealt with?
This piece is where we call our asset tracing. The asset tracing that we do, and really you're just working backwards from that point of that distribution, right? So, my questions would be, where did it come from? Where did that investment come from? Right? Was that an inheritance that grandpa gave the husband 30 years ago as a graduation gift, and it was never nobody ever benefited from it, right? The spouse didn't benefit from it. There were no other distributions. We need to ask some more questions about this, because if it was one of those things where it was an investment that, because this happens all the time, this. I mean, you have clients that receive stock certificates from their grandparents when stock certificates were an actual thing, and they realize, oh my gosh, like I had these things sitting in my attic or our safe deposit box or whatever. Even though there isn't a ongoing distributions, the source of that investment matters. So if it is truly sole and separate, then that's an easy slam dunk. But if it was one of those things where it was like, well, every quarter we got, $400, from share, what is it, share, what's the name of the company? CompuShare. CompuShare is a big one, right? They manage like those types of one-off investments for people, and the record keeping of those investments. And if we get a quarterly a distribution, or maybe even an annual distribution during the length of our marriage, but both of us just were oblivious to it and forgot that it even existed, that's a marital asset, right? That is something that is up for division in the divorce, along with this subsequent distribution. So you've got to kind of go backwards here and sort through, like, where did that actually come from? Some other things that came up, and I have some other thoughts about the case study here that could be red flags. But to answer that question, it's really just a matter of like going back in the time machine, so to speak, and looking at like, where did this come from, who benefited and how, and what is the status of that investment today.
Do you usually see when those happen that, like, I know everyone's situation is different. It's always complex. I know this is a complex situation, but like, if people are more of the 50-50 route, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it as simple as, oh, we found this, and usually they just follow along with that 50-50? Or is it usually like, well, and then someone hangs on to it and argues about it, and now we have this whole big fight over this new thing that occurred?
I think it depends on the temperature of the room, so to speak. Like, how was this really an amicable divorce, and they just want to part ways and be done with it? That's usually 50-50. Like, okay, I found this thing. Let's make sure we figure out a way to divide this up and we can move on with our lives. In other scenarios, it's the latter. Now we have a new hill we want to die on. And us as professionals, we're like, okay, but this is like, it's a $2,000 investment. Do you want to spend $10,000 on attorney fees to sort this out, or you just want to move on with your life? Those, and that we see that happen all the time. It really just depends on the case itself.
Is there anything anyone can do within, their agreement from a divorce perspective to write in there if this situation does occur, right? Do you ever have it where it's like, hey, if anything else pops up at some point, we're going 50-50 or whatever the split was or whatever the situation was? Or is it truly going to be a case-by-case hill when they occur?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an attorney, so I can't give legal advice, as just like we can give tax advice in this conversation. But I am a mediator, and I do mediations all across the country, all the time. And the one line I always put in the agreement for the clients is, should the parties should there be an issue or disagreement over anything that's included in this agreement, or anything unforeseen in the future, the parties agree to return back to mediation to resolve their differences. And by signing that agreement, they now have this backstop where it's like, hey, we said that if something like this comes up, this is what we're going to do. And I think it both keeps the frame of mind of we're going to try to sort this out on our own instead of involving attorneys. Not that we're trying to take money out of attorneys' pockets and they don't do great work, but at the same time, if we can try to keep them out of the court system for these things that will pop up, because they will inevitably, something will come up, inevitably.
I love that, adding that line in there, because it keeps it like we're working on this, right? Like we're going to keep working on this, and not once we're done, we split, we'll never talk again. See you never.
Yeah.
Which again, you alluded to, things always pop up. I think I've had 4 or 5 clients have a divorce at this point in time, and like shit happens, things pop up down the road. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, like things happen, and it's okay. I truly believe in mediation and being able to step in the middle like you do, because it allows them to come back to the table from as amicable as possible, as opposed to, you didn't tell me about this, you hid it from me, right? And it gets into this thing where they come to a mediator like you can just, hey, this is what happened, this is what we can take care of it, come to a decision. So definitely appreciate you stepping in and doing that. All right, let's get into some noise versus truth and get your opinion a little bit about this. And I know we keep saying we're not attorneys and accountants. Well, because compliantly we need to, 1, 2, but we want to make sure that you know of that. So some of these are going to be more of an opinion, but also an experience from us as well. So first one is, framed around divorce.
Yep.
Just file jointly. It'll be easier. Next year you can do divorce. Finally. What do you have to say about that?
I feel like, in pertaining to the tax returns, so here's the thing, and this kind of goes back to your case study there that you shared. My understanding, and again, this is where you need your tax professional to confirm this, but my understanding is the status you take on December 31st at 11:59 p.m. in your time zone is how you file that year. The subsequent, January, February, when you start to do your tax returns. So if you're divorced December 31st at noontime, you now have the ability to go married filing separately, and single. You should be filing single at that point, right? Or head of household, not necessarily married filing single, because you're not married by the end of the year. So that's something that we need to make sure we pay attention to, the status that you take. Is it better? Usually, my personal experience on this also is that you get, higher deductions. You can usually benefit from, a higher refund if you're anticipating getting one, lower tax bill overall. It's easier to sort out like who's claiming the kids in that last year, because that's also something that we're probably going to talk about. It seems it feels easier. It seems easier to be able to marry filing jointly in that last year, and then figure out what your status is of the next year. But you've got to be very careful of the timing of the divorce, because it could change the rules and what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do.
Yeah, I would agree too. And some people call it like a trap of doing so. And again, timing, figure that part out, but it just makes it cleaner. It really does, from that perspective. It makes it cleaner for that final year, and then be able to split, because I see it a lot in the next topic we're going to talk about is, I can claim the kids because I make more, right? And the claims of the kid deduction is usually one of the bigger contested things, because who has a more, is there child support, is there not, is alimony, is I'm taking dependent and I'm not. And when we go back to that first one of like the timing, but also like just being simple, it's simpler in that year to do it, and then build out your plan after that. But what do you have to say for, the take of, hey, I make more, so I'm going to claim the kids as dependents moving forward?
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily work that way, right? When you start thinking about who's going to take the kids as far as tax deductions go, there's a lot to consider. Number one, this is a negotiation lever you can pull, right? If you want something over here and the other side's not ready to give it up, but that they want to be able to claim the kids as tax as dependents on their tax return for a better tax situation at the end of the year, maybe that's your negotiation point where you're like, all right, I'll let you have this, I'll let you have that if you let me have this. And that's, negotiation 101. So it's really more of a negotiation lever. What I see happen 99% of the time is the parents will just alternate years, or one parent will take one kid, another parent will take another, depending on how many children are involved. You have to sort that all out. But the other layer to this too, which is important for people to know, and we see this happen a lot, is if there are special needs scenarios that are involved. You have someone who's going to need ongoing care and child support, and that support is going to be needed for in perpetuity. There's tax, like who's going to claim who on the tax return is beneficial, in some respects, depending on who's actually going to be the primary caregiver for that child. And then don't forget that, the kids can be claimed until the age of 26, unless they claim themselves on their own tax return. So it's not just when they turn 18 and child support is over, you have technically all the way to the age of 26 to be able to claim those kids on your tax return. So these are all the little nuances you need to take into consideration as you're starting talking about those negotiations.
I really hope people are getting a sense when we do these episodes of like, it's not easy, like it's complex.
It is.
On almost every topic, right? It is truly complex. And yeah, emotions are involved, but there's also some of these things that need to be decided. And I know today's episode is a lot about taxes, but it's getting everyone to understand there's a lot of things that go into it. But next topic I want to get your expert lens on, and we brought it up a little bit, is the QDRO and what's going on with it. Most people, if you don't know about it, obviously you're going to learn a little bit about it now. But it seems to be like that is one of the most often used pieces in a divorce because of retirement money, right? Like that's usually when it comes down to. So why don't you enlighten us, generically what a QDRO is, and then let's talk about the updates that have occurred.
Yeah, a QDRO is a very important component of most divorce agreements, right? So there's a lot to unpack here, but I'll try to keep it simple. If you have a 401k plan, a 403b plan, a pension, deferred compensation, any of the workplace retirement like benefits that most of us have familiarity with, if that asset is subject to division in the divorce, you divide that by way of a domestic relations order, a DRO. The document is drafted by either a drafting service, which is work we do, or by an attorney. You do not want to do this on your own. It is very complex, more so technical than complex, I should say. Some technical nuances to it. But what happens is that this document is drafted at or around the same time the marital settlement agreement, the divorce decree is drafted, and it's packaged together, should be packaged together, sent to the courthouse all in one packet, and the judge signs off on it, approves the distribution, and so on and so forth. You then take that document and send it to the plan sponsor. Let's just use Fidelity Investments, for example, because I worked there for almost 10 years. We send it to their 401k plan team. They review it. They then qualify it as an approved divorce, a domestic relations order, and it then becomes a QDRO, a qualified domestic relations order. That, at that point, allows you to separate those retirement assets between the spouses and do so without any tax implications. Party A gets to keep their portion. Party B now gets to keep their portion, even if they're not an employee of that company. They have an account at that there, and they can do whatever they want to do with it. The benefit of doing this by the QDRO, and first off, most plans will only do it if you have the QDRO in place. But it's also a significant tax benefit, and because a lot of people that we work with need to take distributions out of that account just to move on to their new life. Right? They may need to take some money out to put a deposit down on a new home, or cover their rent for the next 12 months, or even buy furniture, right? So they can furnish their new place after the divorce is settled. And by doing that by way of the QDRO under the 72T, Section 72T terms that are out there, you can do that and avoid there's a 10% penalty that most people under the age of 59 and a half will have to pay if they take a distribution out of these accounts. You could avoid that penalty. You're still going to pay income taxes at a federal and state level if state taxes exist, but you're going to avoid that 10% hit as well by doing it subsequent to the divorce.
See, it was simple, folks, right?
Yeah, simple.
There's a lot of technicality behind it. And
there are. I mean, I just had a case right. I literally was emailing them this morning. We've been working on this document for 6 months, back and forth with the plan. because they wanted this I dotted, that T crossed, and with this verbiage and that verbiage, and it can get super technical. Document was sent to the attorney for our client. Attorney decided they're going to redline a bunch of stuff because they don't like the verbiage in it. It has now been sent back to the plan and rejected. So now we start the process all over. So it is now going to take us probably close to a year to get this done, simply because, again, a lot of attorneys understand this stuff, but apparently some attorneys do not. And by the attorney being involved in this particular case, it significantly delayed us. So you've got to know what you're doing.
Not to mention, if the plan sponsor is saying this is what we need it, you're almost stuck to what they need.
100%.
Is what it is.
100%.
And you're not going to be able to fight them. They got deep pockets, better attorneys. It's not going to work.
Agreed.
So.
Agreed.
What's been going on recently with QDRO in general?
In that particular space, what I've seen, to be honest, man, is people are trying to leverage AI, and I've seen a couple of cases where they're leaning towards leveraging AI and trying to draft some of these documents themselves, avoiding the cost of having an attorney or someone like us prepare this. And I feel like this particular case that I mentioned just a second ago, there was some level of AI involvement. I can't confirm that 100%, but I feel like based on the information that was shared with me, the way that they redlined this document, apparently AI hallucinated and gave, if they used it, AI definitely hallucinated and gave them wrong information. So, we're seeing a lot more pensions. I don't know if it's just because we work with a lot more government folks, the military and postal service and you name it. We're seeing a lot more pensions. I know you and I both have, a ton of experience on the traditional financial planning side of things. I didn't see them all that much. I'm like, wow, this is kind of like a dying breed. And now that I'm doing this work, I'm seeing not every case, but probably 70% of my cases have a pension of some sort involved. And the reality too is that there's nothing boilerplate about it. There isn't one standard QDRO. Everyone needs to be customized to that plan and the requirements of the plan. It would be nice if it was, because then maybe AI assistance would be able to allow us to do this a little bit faster pace. But yeah, I think AI is starting to get involved, and could be good, could be bad. Time will tell.
Time will tell. I know we're starting to see it even on the traditional financial planning side. It's terrifying, really, at the end of the day. Yeah, there's efficiencies and stuff that can be done and it can be achieved. Don't get me wrong. But throwing all your information into the AI and having it spit back things that it just won't know, even if it was loaded in, it could detrimentally affect whatever plan you're putting in place, whatever agreement, whatever plan. So cautious there. I want to dive into this pension thing because I've ran into it a couple times in the last 2 weeks, which really hasn't been brought up in my career that often, but I am starting to see it more too. Talk us through, for those that maybe have a pension and have been going through this, like how is the nuance of a pension, QDRO, or anything in general, a splitting, so different than, say, the 401k or 403b?
Well, the 403b and 401ks type of accounts are very, very simple in comparison. This person gets their half, this person gets their half, and they're done, and it's done. With the pensions, I'll give you an example. With the pension, I do probably 2 or 3 pensions in the state of Alaska every month.
Okay.
Never had an Alaska client until I started doing this work. Now we've got 2 or 3 a month that are coming through from the state of Alaska. And here's an example of how complicated it is, or the differences. The state of Alaska has multiple tiers of their pension, depending on your date of hire and their plan changes and the role that you're in, so on and so forth. So you have that piece of it. Like, it's not just, so we have to first value the pension. If you have a pension that's out there, that's out yourself, and you get the plan statement, they usually send an annual report, right? And what they'll do is on the front page, they'll say, your plan is worth $200,000. But that's not necessarily accurate. That is not the number that you need to understand. What we need to really understand is, like, how much money, what is the current value of the future cash flow that you're going to receive 5, 10, 20 years into the future. So we do pension valuations where we'll look at the client's date of birth, the dates of employment, the separation date, the marriage date, their age, like all the stuff, discount rates, interest rates. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff, that cost of living adjustments. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it, and we put it all together and we get a number. And 9 times out of 10, it is significantly different than the number on the front of the statement. So that's where there's significant differences in that between the traditional 401ks and the 403bs, right? Because you can go to your 401k today and say, okay, well, it's worth $200,000 because I have these investments, and that's it. It's cut and dry. Pension's very, very different. Not to mention the rules with how you can separate those plans are different. Sometimes they don't allow you to separate the plan, and one person gets a stream of income and the other person gets a stream of income. Sometimes they force the person who's receiving that plan, the portion of that plan, to just get a lump sum and move on with their life because they don't want to manage that plan any longer. You also have two people that, unless they're born on the same exact day, they're usually two different ages and two different sex, right? So two different genders. So there's different actuarial tables that are used to calculate how long that person's going to live. So that changes the payout structure and so on. Beneficiary designations, like you name it, there's a ton to it. And then if you're looking at some of these other plans, they also layer in medical benefits. Maybe if I'm working for the state of Alaska, I get $270 a month or something like that. That's given to me as a benefit to cover my medical expenses at Medicare age. There's value in that benefit too that we have to factor in. So it's like you get into it and you're like, wow, there's actually like a lot to it. It's not just what you see on the surface. There's so many different components of it.
Another great reason to hire your team, right? Like the nuances and the crazy things that go into it, I think make divorces more expensive than people think. And I don't mean expensive in terms of cost to get it done, but the cost of what you didn't know you had the rights and values to get, right? Like just in that example, that pension, the statement says it's valued at 200,000, but if you calculate all those things in, it might be another 200,000, 400,000, 500,000 because of the value of the future value of those cash flows. Like it's a massive number, and we just don't want people to miss out on things that are, one, rightfully theirs, or at least a negotiation tool of what they want to get from what's going on.
Exactly.
All right, so I think we've hit a lot of things that a lot of people have questions on. As we get into 2026 and we see these changes and we have filings and things are going on, what is it that you and your team are trying to achieve for this industry, for this side of the industry? What are you trying to achieve from a business perspective for everyone out there?
Well, thank you for asking. We actually built, and this is a 15-month, almost 16-month long project at this stage, but we've been building software over, not necessarily, I would say quietly, but we've been doing it behind the scenes with a lot of the other work that we're doing for certified divorce financial analysts like myself, family law attorneys, mediators, forensic accountants, all the people that handle the financial aspects of divorce. So as you know, like in our world, in our traditional retirement planning, investment management type of roles, we use tools like eMoney and Right Capital and Money Guide Pro. Those are usually like the top 3 that are out there, where we can run plan projections and we can have clients link their accounts so we can get up-to-date real-time information on their accounts and help them put a retirement plan in place. Well, we've built the same thing for divorce professionals called Secure Split. That it has actually just launched last Monday, which I'm super proud of. We did a soft launch here in the state of California last Monday, and we announced this at our big annual conference last week, which was well received. So I'm super pumped about it. We've got about 300 on the wait list right now, so we're going to be rolling that out slowly to make sure it goes all according to plan over the course of the next couple of months, and then by the summer, we're going to have nationwide coverage. We should be in 43 states by June. So to allow divorce professionals to go in and think of this as end-to-end case management, right? So not just the financial piece. You can manage all of your cases. You can manage your firm, and you can manage your firm KPIs. So you can look at, if you have 5 advisors on your team or 5 attorneys on your team, you can see how many cases they have open, how many cases they've just closed, what their billing looks, their hourly KPIs. We're going to be able to do time tracking and billing and secure messaging, we're going to have a Plaid integration here very soon, where clients are going to be able to link their accounts so we can get real-time up-to-date updates on their account balances and such. So when we start doing the tax, because there's a tax component to this, right? So we can show people on a pre-tax basis and an after-tax basis how much their accounts are worth, and we can do that in real time. And then we can also export all this information onto the court-ready reports. So there's no more manual entry. There's no more taking information from a spreadsheet and putting it on a report. It's with one click, all the data comes in, it's validated, and we can send it out to the courts from there. And then more functionality, more capabilities, and everything else are going to be coming down the line. But I'm super pumped about it, man. We're still very much in the first inning, but the experience so far, people that are our beta testers that have been using it for about 6 months now has been wild. So I'm looking forward to seeing where this whole thing comes. So thanks for giving me a chance to talk about it. I'm super pumped about it.
Yeah, and I am too. Obviously, that's not exactly our entire role, but at NoBS Wealth, we want to highlight that. That's, to me, that can change the industry. It can change efficiency. It will allow, hopefully, better results for the end client, right? At the end of the day, That's what it's built for, and that's what it's for, but it allows us professionals to do so. So I love it. One, kudos to you to taking that undertaking, because obviously off air, we talk about this, and I don't think I could do that, but I love that you did. So, hey, everyone, we will be, publicizing that more. We'll have it in our newsletter. We're going to launch it when they go full, but I wanted to make sure that everyone got to talk about it now on today's episode. So, Jamie, I appreciate everything you do. Everyone, if you do have someone who's going through a divorce or thinking about a divorce, or you're going through it, please reach out. I can connect you to Jamie or go directly to him. Obviously, all his contact info will be in the video as well. But please do so. We truly want what's best for you and your situation, and we want to make it efficient and easy, not what you've heard of the horror stories. Okay, so please come to us with that. So without further ado, Jamie, appreciate everything that you do. Keep doing it, please.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
The preceding program was sponsored by Black Mammoth. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Black Mammoth. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Black Mammoth website, www.blackmammoth.com. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions and securities, or the rendering of personalized investment advice due to various factors, including changing market conditions. The information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up-to-date, Black Mammoth do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature and is provided for informational purposes only, and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results.